the topic, and we can discuss the way forward. Gilbert was asking whether I would prefer to give the entire lecture followed by questions. I think that would be easier. However, if there is something that you need to bring to my attention, I'll be happy to pause and explain a few things. So these are basics, which all of us are supposed to be aware of. But I see that there's been one or two people who have logged on who may not necessarily be biologically oriented. So some background would be helpful. What are the coronaviruses? These are a large group of viruses which has an envelope, a genetic material within, and then the protein spikes, which form a crown, and therefore the name corona. So it's a crown virus. The shape is like a crown. There are different types, and for us as humans, they mainly affect our respiratory system and gastrointestinal tracts. For the respiratory system, it causes the common cold and sometimes pneumonia, and some general malaise of a sort. It can cause some diarrhea if it affects the intestinal tract. Some of the coronaviruses that we have dealt with in the past are SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, which occurred for the first time in 2003, and then followed by the Middle Eastern respiratory virus, which also started in Saudi Arabia and spread all over the Middle East in 2012. So these are coronaviruses which have caused some epidemics in the past. And then in November or December 2019, a new coronavirus was identified in China. It was causing a cluster of pneumonia, and it was previously not known or not documented, whichever way you want to take it. We had no record of it. So it was called the novel coronavirus. So a few people in the seafood and live animal markets in Wuhan got infected and got sick. Unfortunately, this my person doesn't look too sick, but they got sick, and then they infected family members and then health workers as well when they went to seek help. So it spread within a very short time in Wuhan and many other parts of China. But because of international travel and economic development, within a very short space of time, it was all over the world. This is air traffic movement showing the areas where you have the highest density of air traffic, mainly in North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. And therefore, the reason why we had so many cases being reported in these areas compared to Africa. As of this morning, when I checked from the Johns Hopkins dashboard, there had been 27 million plus cases that had been reported. And as you can see, the number of cases highly concentrated in North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Now India has taken up a very high proportion. And then South America also took a brunt of the whole infection. Compared to Africa, it appears to be less widely spread. So we in Africa appeared to have been spared to some extent compared to what has happened in other parts of the world. As of this morning, when I went to the Ghana Health Service website, there had been 45,000 plus cases confirmed, with about almost 44,000 who had recovered, with 283 deaths. And active cases was reported as 831, with 143 new cases being reported. So if you do the map, the plot that all epidemiologists like to do, you see that since March, when we recorded our first cases, the yellow ones are those who came in mandatory quarantine, those who came in from outside. I mean, by record, the first case was an imported case. Since then, there had been an initial spike of a sort. It appeared to be going down. There are people who argue that it never went down. And then there has been a constant rise in June thereabout until we peaked sometime around the end of June. But since then, the numbers have been coming down. Many have been asking questions, and rightly so, whether we have seen the end of it, or this is just a half time, and that we should prepare for a second outbreak, as has been reported in many parts of Europe and Asia. But the truth of the matter is that we do not know. So if you look at this map, basically the number of cases that have been reported is that's the cumulative number of cases. That's the top one, the blue one, yeah. And then the green one is the number of recoveries. And of course, the orange one is the number of active cases. So gradually the number of active cases has been going down as at the end of August, and I believe it's continued down till now. So this is the epidemiology, basic epidemiology of the disease as we have it now. So the basics of vaccines. The primary goal of a vaccine is to elicit an immune response in the host that will last, so that in the event that you get exposed to the real pathogen, your immune system will be able to fight the pathogen. So if we are looking for an ideal vaccine, we want a vaccine that will minimize undesired immunopotentiation. And then will be also suitable for the use of health workers. But given the epidemiology of the disease and the severity of illness in adult populations, we would also want to be able to use the vaccine in adults who are 60 years and above, and also who have underlying illness such as diabetes and hypertension. And whichever vaccine that we develop must be suitable for stockpiling, so that we can readily get access and distribute when necessary. In the whole environment of vaccine development or drug development, prior to that, there is extensive research which is conducted, normally referred to as the preclinical studies. And the preclinical studies would be the in vitro or test tube and in vivo experiments that is done in test tubes and animals. And At this stage, we are looking primarily at efficacy, toxicity, the pharmacokinetics, and things like that. So data at this point is used to determine whether to continue the development of the investigational new vaccine or drug or not. So basically, a lot of vaccine development gets aborted in the preclinical stage. So it doesn't even get into the clinical stage. So if it passes the preclinical stage, then you go to the clinical stage, where it involves the use of human volunteers, or what we usually call participants, to generate information to help us make decisions whether the vaccine is of benefit or not. So we are generating medical knowledge. But clinical trials are of two broad categories. The clinical research. I talked about preclinical and then the clinical research. So when we get into the clinical research, there are two broad categories. What we call the clinical trials or the intervention studies as against observational studies. I mean, the clinical trials would normally have a deliberate attempt to assign people to a particular intervention. So there would be randomization, and that you know ahead of time that this person is going to receive and this person is not going to receive. Whereas for observational studies, you just allow nature to take its course. The investigational products are put in place, and then you observe what happens to those who received and those who did not receive. Obviously, the interventional studies are the gold standards. And then when we talk about vaccine trials, it's normally referring to the clinical trials or the interventional studies. Gilbert talks about the different phases of trials. So let me attempt to make some points on that. There are four main phases of clinical trials. Phase one would normally involve between 20 and 100 healthy volunteers or people with a particular disease condition. And at this stage, we are looking at the safety and dose of the vaccine or the drug. I mean, I may use drugs and vaccine interchangeably because that is normally what happens. And it will normally take a couple of months to do this. And usually about 70% of the interventions that you would test in phase one may move to the next phase. Then the second phase, phase two, usually you would want to engage about a couple of hundred of people with the disease or condition. Here you are testing efficacy and side effects. And it usually would take a couple of months to maybe up to 2 years. And the data available suggests that probably only 33% of drugs that come to this phase will move on. So you can begin to do your numbers game as what proportion of the original numbers that enter clinical trials would end up at the ultimate point. Then we have the phase three. This is where we usually look at larger numbers of volunteers and people with the condition. And again, we are looking at efficacy, and we are monitoring adverse events in large populations. And depending on the design of the study, it may take from a year to about 4 years. And this mainly is the key point at which decisions are made as to whether drugs or vaccines should be made available or not. and approximately 25 to 30% of drugs would move to the next phase. Then the last phase, which is the phase 4. This is when phase 3 has shown that it is efficacious. Then you would want to test it in thousands of volunteers. And the main purpose at this stage is for licensure purposes. So most of the vaccines or drugs that have been proven to be efficacious would have to go through this phase where it is being used in the population and a lot of data is collected to determine long-term benefits and side effects that might not have been picked up in the earlier phases. And this is usually carried out once the drug or vaccine or device has been approved by the FDA. So it's basically post-market safety monitoring. So as you can see, the typical vaccine development process is usually a linear process where you start from preclinical to phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 and then phase 4. But when you are in an epidemic scenario, then there is an urgency, and therefore there are designs that have been approved to help you shorten the time. Of course, not without some fallouts. So it may mean that a pharmaceutical company may begin doing investment, into phase 3. So you start production in large numbers to deal or deliver to about 100,000 people in your phase 3. And then your phase 2 shows that the safety profile is not good at all. So you have to stop, and you may have produced about 100,000 vials that will go waste. So there are some problems with that kind of approach. But when there is an epidemic, you cannot sit down and follow that linear process. And this is what has caused a lot of uproar, because many people do not understand how the processes work when you are in an epidemic or a pandemic for that matter. Some basics of vaccines again. We talk about live attenuated vaccines, that is weakened vaccines, and examples are the MMR, the rotavirus, and yellow fever. And then the inactive virus, the Hep A, rabies, and the flu shot. And then the others, the subunit recombinant polysaccharides and conjugate vaccines like the Hep B and the HPV, shingles, and pneumococcal. And then, of course, the toxoids. Another way of looking at it is to look at the virus vaccines or the viral vector vaccines, the nucleic acid vaccines, and the protein-based vaccines. So you can do the classification along these lines. And for the purposes of what is available on the market now, I would want to go with this kind of classification. For now, as at the time I reviewed this paper that was published in Nature, these were the vaccines that had been made available in the public domain. So there could be other vaccines that were being developed, but their profiles have not been published anywhere. But these ones show that there were about 5 vaccines that were inactivated virus and 2 which were the weakened ones. And then the viral vector vaccines were also in the order of about 26 thereabout. and the RNA and DNA vaccines, about 20 of them were available. And then the protein-based ones are about 33. And then there are the others, which include old or vaccines that existed already that were being repurposed to see whether they could be of use for COVID-19. The COVID vaccine candidates that are being tried as at April 8th. Again, as at April 8th, there were just about 4 of them that were in phase 1. What I want you to focus on are these graphs to tell you that as at sometime in April, there were many in the exploratory phase. There were a few more that have not been confirmed, but they were talking about them. But the preclinical phase itself had just about 12 or no, about 18. And the ones that had actually gone into phase 1 trials were just about 4. And who were involved? Here we are looking at where the vaccines are being developed. North America, China, Europe, Australia, and other Asian countries. And I was hoping that I'll see Africa somewhere, but Africa is nowhere to be found. And then what you also need to take a look at is the public for non-profits, which is a very small proportion. And then the ones that were being developed by the academics, but the bigger chunk are the private pharmaceutical industry. And basically to say that, look, if big pharma invests in these things, the expectation is that they will recoup their monies. So of the 139 vaccines that were available as at August 20th, this is the distribution, the protein-based and all the other ones that I talked about. But these ones were in preclinical evaluation. The 139 were in preclinical evaluation. And then these 30 candidates were actually in clinical trials. So let's look at the ones that have been in trials and the stage at which they are. So the first one is a messenger RNA technology that is being used. It's called the Moderna. And clearly it's not a single dose, and which means that there will be the need for the booster dose as and when you get along. But they were in the early phase 2 trials. Then there is another one that is being developed by biotech, which is potentially a single dose, also a messenger RNA vaccine, but had it's in phase 1 and phase 2. Merck Sharp and Dohme and the International AIDS Vaccine Initiative were also doing something. The details were not very clear, but they were in the preclinical phase. Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceuticals were doing a replication effective human adenovirus 26 vector, which was supposed to be given as a single shot, and it was in early phase 1 and phase 2. And then AstraZeneca was working with the University of Oxford, also an adenovirus vector, which was supposed to be a single shot, again in the early phases, phase 1 and phase 2. I can go on and on and on with what is in the what is going on trial. I mean, you hear about the ones in China, the CanSino biologicals. There's another one in Shenzhen, and then this one to Shenzhen Genomic Medical Institute that is also doing another one in phase 1. And then there's the Russian one, which you have all heard about. As at the time, the data that I could access was phase 1 and phase 2 trials, but I know that they've been in phase 3 over the last couple of weeks. So this is what is available. As far as timelines of vaccine development are concerned, it would be good to put this whole discussion in perspective because we are looking at getting a vaccine ASAP. Here, as far as the SARS-CoV-2 is concerned, the expectation is that it will be developed within 12 to 18 months, which is very fast track. But bear in mind that MERS, which started about 8 years ago, for the last 6 years, there's been work going on, but no vaccine. The SARS-CoV-1, which was the H1N1, also no vaccine for close to 17 years now. No effective vaccine for close to 17 years now. Ebola, which was, they started work on the Ebola vaccine in about 2005, thereabout. And it took close to 15 years to get an effective vaccine for Ebola. The vaccine development for polio took close to 60 years to develop. So we need to see this and ask ourselves, are we expecting too much? Are we in a rush? Is it feasible? Is there better technology for us to be able to get things done properly? So these are open questions for all of us to discuss. I'll skip this slide. It also tells a similar story on whether it is RNA or DNA or protein and where they are as at May. I'll skip this slide. So what are the related matters? The first one I put up is, are vaccines essential for the control of COVID-19? Do we have the capacity for vaccine development in this country? Do we have the capacity for vaccine trials in this country? And should we participate in COVID-19 vaccine trials if we had the capacity? These are very important questions. And will we use the COVID-19 vaccine if it were available? These are things that, as public health specialists, we need to begin to talk about and reflect and help formulate policy, galvanize ideas on what it is that we should do as a country, and that we should not just sit there aloof, just waiting. I decided to start with this slide because of the WHO and challenges that have come with the whole politics of this vaccine and maybe the politics of COVID-19 in general. There's been a lot of lambasting of WHO from some Western countries led by the US. And as a global health development agency, what should be the role for WHO in this whole initiative? And I think it is something that we can reflect on. So I'll take the first question. Are vaccines essential for COVID-19 control? Currently, we are focusing on prevention. So we are talking about social distancing, the use of face masks, hand washing, sanitizing, and then prompt effective diagnosis and treatment. As to how well we've done with this, we are all judges. I think we've done pretty well. We could have done much better. But a third option, which is building immunity, could come through herd immunity or vaccines. And the question is, should we be exploring this third option? There are some who think that, oh yeah, everything is okay now, so why the bother? In as much as I'm very hopeful and I'm praying that we don't have another wave, if we should get another wave, we are not sure how it is going to look like. So I think we need to get all our arsenals and be ready for the fight, just in case there is an upsurge. So I would say that we should seriously consider the whole area of building immunity. Has Ghana got the capacity for vaccine development? We have excellent biomedical scientists who are doing the genomics and the structural biology. We are very much aware, WACBIB in Legon came up with the genetic sequencing for the vaccine, for the virus that mainly predominant in the country, which normally would lead to the whole development of vaccine concepts and all that. But we don't have the adequate infrastructure to be able to do these things effectively, because there's been very little investment in R&D. And I have not seen any obvious developmental agenda for vaccines. So I will say that, yes, the capacity exists, but it needs to be harnessed, and we need to invest heavily in that. The bigger question is, do we have the capacity for vaccine production? I'm not aware of any vaccine production unit in the whole of Africa. Even South Africa does not have it, as far as I know. And it all boils down to the infrastructure, which just does not exist. We have not invested in it. And very, very little or no investment in R&D at all. I was shocked to note that even active pharmaceutical ingredients, what we normally call APIs, for making paracetamol and all the basic drugs that we have on the market, are all imported. So all the big pharmaceutical companies import the APIs from India and South America and those places to basically reformulate here. So we really, really are behind. And again, I have not seen any obvious agenda for vaccine production in this country. So maybe we should begin to look at the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations, Gavi, and see if we can partner some countries in this sub-region to begin to develop something, because we cannot always sit down and wait for production from Europe and Southeast Asia and the Americas. I think it's about time Africa sat down to look at these things themselves. Do we have the capacity for vaccine trials? That I know we do, particularly for phase 2 and phase 3 trials. Many of them have been done in this country on the backbone of the demographic surveillance that exists in Avrongo, Kintampo, Dodoa, and Agogo. They've all participated in the development of meningitis vaccine, malaria, rotavirus, and the capacity exists. For phase 4, it's even much easier. Currently, there is a lot of data being collected for the malaria vaccine that has been rolled out all over the country. So as far as the conduct of clinical trials are concerned, Ghana has very good capacity. So the capacity does exist. The question is, should we be participating in these if we don't have the production infrastructure, but we have the capacity to participate in the trials? Should we participate if a vaccine is developed in Oxford? And as I was asking, I was looking at it, I asked myself, why are we even asking this question? It's because of the mistrust. And unfortunately, some scientists have also been compromised to the extent that sometimes when data is generated, we don't even believe it. And there's been some politicization of all these initiatives, and scientists unfortunately contribute to it. Then they feed into all these conspiracy theories, which make us doubt whether the data that is being generated is reliable or not. I think we need cool heads to discuss this dispassionately and decide as a country whether we want to be part of the process or we want to be behind. The recent retraction of the study by the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine as far as hydroxychloroquine is too fresh in our minds. Basically saying that the scientific process can be compromised. When there is big pharma and there is big money, you can never rule it out. Of course, that is not the norm. But even though there are just a few of them, they tend to take the credibility away. And for which reason it feeds into this whole process of anti-vaccine initiatives or groups who would swear heaven and earth that they will not allow vaccination to take place because it causes autism and causes all sorts of, and they do it out of conviction. Small minority as they may be, they do it out of conviction. And I think we need to engage them and ensure that some knowledge dissemination takes place within those communities. So if you are an anti-vaccine person, wait till the measles strike, and then you see what it happens. I was saying the other day that our final year medical students who graduated recently never saw a case of measles. And it tells you, for those of you around Dr. Mofa and co, the old ones, there were times when some of the pediatric wards had to be closed down because of measles and its complications of bronchopneumonia and diarrhea and all that kind of thing. And I mean, they used to die like chickens. But this now does not happen because of effective vaccination. So we should not rule it out. So how do we address these concerns? We need to build trust. We need to do good science. And very key to this is effective regulation. Indeed, the Public Health Act of 2012, Act 851, Section 152, clearly spells out how the conduct of clinical trials should be done in this country. And it gives the Food and Drugs Authority the mandate to do this. So the Food and Drugs Authority has a technical advisory committee on clinical trials that has been doing this for a very long time. Indeed, this committee precedes Act 851. So I think the Food and Drugs Authority should be given credit for this good work that is being done. Unfortunately, sometimes our own scientists here in Ghana think we are being, the Food and Drugs Authority Clinical Trials Committee is being too stringent, and they ask too many questions. And before you are aware, the sponsors take the trial to a less stringent environment. So Ghana is being difficult. Ghana is asking too many questions. So they take it to Mali. And then within a very short while, the trial approval is given. They are not policemen, but they just want to ensure that the right things are done. The committee is made up of specialists who know what they have to do and ask the right questions to ensure that safety is ensured and to ensure that it is done according to the best standards. On top of this, AVAREF, for which the Ghana FDA plays a very key role, is helping to sanitize the African environment because we don't live in an island. And I think the role of AVAREF and the FDA in the regulation of clinical trial regimes is very critical and has really, really, really enhanced the conduct of clinical trials in Africa. In fact, sometimes they even do joint reviews to ensure that Ghana does not say one thing and then Uganda says something else. Indeed, it is not only Africa or Ghana, for that matter, that is concerned. The European Union is also pushing that the vaccine trials will be done properly, ensure that they are safe. They want full transparency, and for the pharmaceutical companies to pay appropriate compensations when necessary. So the whole issue of regulation should be an effort that is done together. Pool our resources together to get it done. This is a global issue, and it's not just Africa. It is Europe, it is the US, and it is Southeast Asia and South America. So, excuse me. So South Africa is participating. As we speak now, South Africa is taking on board 2 of the vaccines. In June, they started phase 3 trials of the Oxford vaccine. And just last month, at the end of last month, they started the phase 2 trial of the Novavax company vaccine. In my opinion, South Africa is being smart. They are doing the right thing. They are participating in the trials. And the issue is that for licensing of a vaccine, which for a disease of such wide distribution, you need all populations to be involved in the development phase. I think the smart thing South Africa is doing is that once they participate, if the vaccines are found to be efficacious, by the convention of ethics and all that, they are the first people to benefit from whatever booty in quotes that may come out of it. So I think it is something that we need to be reflecting on. I've been talking for the almost 1 hour now. The way forward. Should we participate? I think we should. We should let science lead and not the politics, because you can be sure there is a lot of politics in vaccine development, vaccine trials, and everything vaccine. And especially when it occurs around election time, you can be sure no politician will touch it. It's a hot potato. Ghana must contribute to the science, but we must ensure effective regulation using best practices. I think we need to put ourselves in readiness to have access to a potential vaccine. Because if we don't, then this whole issue of nationalism and vaccine production which has been discussed in some fora, would come to haunt us. There are 6 billion people on this planet. And if a vaccine were found, by the time they produce over 400 million vials for the US population, who may have the money to pay for it, I'm not sure where Ghana would be. That is the time that we'll be arguing that, no, this should be a global public good, so we should have part of it. And the point is, even if we were to have part of it, are we able to pay? There was this poll that was done by the CNN. 7 out of 10 Americans would likely participate, or would likely take a coronavirus vaccine if it was found. So I guess my question is, yes, you can go through all the processes and get the vaccine, but if the vaccine were found, will you take it? So how do we get access? And how do we intend to finance the access? These are big issues which we need to have our foot in the door as far as the access is concerned. And the financing is another thing, because I am very certain that Africa will be the last to get it if we were to find it, because we were not part of the process and we do not have the financial muscle to acquire these vaccines. I would want to acknowledge the input of Dr. Franklin Siedubek, who gave me a couple of the slides from the Ghana Health Service. And 2 of my biomedical scientists, Dr. Kwabena Diodo and Dr. Ruben Aibojani, who provided me with most of the background information. My concluding remark is that we need to take advantage of our capacity. We know what we have and we know what we do not have. Let's bring what we have to the table so that we can be counted when the time comes. On that note, I thank you for your attention.
You know, the downside of these virtual presentations, you can't hear people clap. So let me do it for everybody. This is phenomenal.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, this is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Professor Gyapong, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will not use my prerogative as the chair. So, James, if we will ask participants to put their hands up, we will trust James to be transparent and fair in asking those whose hands are up to speak. Quite a number of comments have come up in the chat box, but let's have some interaction first, and we'll go back to the chat boxes and then prompt Professor Gyapong accordingly. So James, I will leave it to you to just randomly mention a hand that is up, and we'll ask the individual, if possible, to put yourself on video, ask your question, and then go off. Thank you. James, all yours.
Very much, Dr. Buckle. So we'll start with Mercy Ahun.
Great.
And then Frank Dance will speak.
Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Fine.
I am Mercy Ahun, a public health consultant, formerly EPR manager in Ghana. Thank you very much, Prof, for your wonderful and engaging presentation. I'll try and limit my questions to 3 areas. You talked about the importance of building immunity. And I'd like to find out from you, what do you mean by that? Are you talking about herd immunity? And how do you propose that we build this immunity. The second point is, I hope that there's somebody from government here, because it would be good to get an update on Ghana's role in the Gavi COVAX AMC, since Ghana is still a Gavi eligible country. Has government already indicated, because there's a deadline for countries to indicate their interest, has government already indicated its interest in the Gavi COVAX facility, and you want to be part of the AMC? And what does that mean? Because there's a certain proportion of vaccines which are available, and how is government planning to engage in all that? So I think Dr. Mponsa Achiano is somewhere over there, so maybe he can tell us about government plans on that. My third question, Professor Gyapong, you know, what I'm really, I've been grass to my boss, Dr. Mofa. I've been engaged in immunization for the past 30 years. But what has really surprised me during this COVID season is the amount of animosity. And there's a whole Christian television station. I don't even have the time to go through all the things that I get in my inbox about people who are regular, sane people, but are now very, very opposed to vaccines. And do we know the extent in Ghana, or are we still assuming that the trust, the public trust that people had in vaccines is still there? What are the plans to assess if this trust has changed? Do we think that if we provide a vaccine today, people will just queue and get it? And what are the plans that we have if there are issues of trust, especially in the faith communities, to address them? Thank you very much.
Yeah, these are, thanks, Mercy, for your questions. These are very interesting questions. The first one on immunity, building immunity. I talked about two potential approaches. One, herd immunity, and two, vaccination to get your immunity. I'm talking theoretically, the potentials. The whole concept of herd immunity has been debated. And I've heard some very cogent argument for probably going for herd immunity in Africa, because the perception is that the virus is not that virulent and therefore get people exposed, but there is no evidence on that pathway. So we would need to collect enough data before you head in that direction, because they are vulnerable people. If you start going on exposure, then you could be in trouble. So the alternative is vaccination. And the point is, do we even have a vaccine? And those are the questions I've been asking. I don't engage government per se, so I will not be able to talk about Gavi. But as for the anti-vaccine movement, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's here in this country. There are people who, out of very strong conviction, think that vaccines should not even be entertained at all. And they speak with such eloquence and conviction that people get convinced. Some of them are very highly educated like you and I. So if they stand out to speak with their evidence, which in my opinion is warped, the vulnerable will take the bite. If I may, the current malaria vaccine that is being rolled out almost faced a similar problem. There was a need for engagement at all levels. And sometimes I'm not sure where to draw the line between genuine fear and concern and getting overboard. So it's an issue of engagement education, and ensuring, as I said, that scientists also come above board, because they cite all the evidence of scientists being compromised for monetary gains or for whatever gains to get into this business. So it's like, I mean, if the Lancet and New England Journal can publish these things, how can we be sure that what you found is correct? It's unfortunate, but that is the truth.
As this is a platform of 90 seasoned practitioners in different stages of their career. I do appreciate Professor Gyapong has led the discussion, but if there are others either in official positions and capacities who also have relevant information to contribute to some of the questions, we will ask you to either put a chat or possibly just intervene and let us hear your comments. It is not Professor Gyapong and 90 others. We all have collective experiences, which I think may be relevant to all of us. So please, those of you who are in official capacities, in roles that you have inside information or much more factual information to support the dialogue, please just blurt it out, and then we'll find a way to moderate it. But just let's just be sure that you are coming with some new information or relevant additional information. Don't use it.
I'm concerned a channel will respond to the Gavi issue.
Yes,
please.
yes.
Yes,
Okay.
good evening.
So James, please, go ahead. Who's next?
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I raised my hand earlier just to support the issue on Gavi, COVAX, and AMC, because I thought that I probably would be in a position to give some information on that. But before that, thank you very much, Prof, for that wonderful presentation. Yes, what I know about the Gavi, COVAX, AMC thing is that there has been some high-level discussions on that. Normally, when these issues come up, it is the minister who leads it. So what I do know is that the minister has been engaged by Gavi on that, but as to whether Ghana has signed on to that, I am not privy to that. But I am aware in the next couple of meetings, some of us might be called to take part. That is what I know for now. But Prof also mentioned that there's no factory that produces vaccines in Africa. I thought Senegal did have a vaccine production unit, I think through Institute Pasteur. I'm not too sure whether that is correct.
I am not sure of that. If there is, then I'm mistaken.
Yeah. Pasteur
okay.
Institute produces yellow fever vaccine.
Okay.
All right. So those are the few thoughts I have.
Yeah, but
Okay,
so
then.
the APR manager, have you found out that there's an issue of the trust that the immunization program has? Is it the same, or is there a perception that it's going down? And what is the government approach or the program approach to that? Please.
Well, as Prof rightly said, the issue of anti-vaccine is as old as the inception of the very first vaccine. However, because of the advent of these modern social media, I think there has been a lot more challenge, or a lot of challenges in terms of vaccination. We haven't gathered information to that effect, because for us, for routine vaccination, the coverage is still high. However, there's still the potential that these unfortunate postings, especially on WhatsApp, could cause a lot of damage. And as Prof again mentioned, with the initial piloting of the malaria vaccine, we had a very difficult situation of just a single WhatsApp message, and the whole thing nearly got mad. So we are very careful. We're still trying to engage as much as possible, but we don't have any, as it were, definitive solution to especially these WhatsApp posts. It appears that we rather chase the issues after they have emerged. And what I know is that the Health Promotion Division has been proactive in this, in terms of setting up a new, what I want to call unit that deals with some of these posts, and also tries to be more proactive in getting rumors debunked. This is what I know for I mean, in the service.
I mean, not to belabor the point of trust, and there's a relevance and a place for vaccine. So that is not the debate. The issue would be, how do we manage the introduction? How do we mitigate the anti-vaccines? How do we make sure that we are putting out trusted facts and information with evidence and sources? And a lot of this has to do with a continuous process of monitoring what is being said out there and making sure that the facts on the ground are brought out for people to listen to and hear to. But it's not about throwing the baby out with the water. So there's a hand up, F. Ziga. You may take the floor. And then after that, Victor Bampo, please prepare.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Francis Kazga, clinical pharmacist and public health practitioner with Kolego Teaching Hospital. Thank you, Prof, for this wonderful presentation. I have two questions, but one has been answered. That has to do with perception of Ghanaian population on vaccine because of what is circulating on media. That has been taken care of. My second question is, you did mention that South Africa has been smart and currently has 2 companies that are carrying out phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials. I want to know what is Ghana's stand, because how did South Africa get selected to participate in those trials? Is it a government approach, or is the pharmaceutical companies that approach them? In your presentation, I was so excited to hear that, yes, Ghana has a very good clinical trial site, and there is good record of various clinical trials that has been carried out. And this would be very good information to the big pharma companies, because when a country has those good qualities, they will have the confidence to also carry out their trials. So what chance do we stand as a country to participate in COVID-19 phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 trials that some of the pharma companies want to carry out? I believe one thing that could be fueling their selection of countries has to do with number of active cases that countries have. Currently, when you look at Ghana's cases, we are going down. Would we still stand a chance for some of these companies to come to involve Ghana in clinical trials? Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you. I missed the name. It's F. Ziga. Yeah, okay, thank you. Why South Africa was selected, I do not know. At least I know they have the infrastructure, and the big pharma knows that South Africa has the infrastructure. You can be sure that for an issue as political as COVID, there must be government clearance before a vaccine will be tried in any country. So I am not very certain of the processes, but definitely the Oxford group will not just zoom into South Africa to begin the trial. So there must be some engagement. I'm not aware if there has been any engagement with Ministry of Health or Food and Drugs Authority to get any such vaccines tried here. So again, unfortunately, I cannot speak to that. However, it is not, I don't think it is because of the number of cases that has occurred in South Africa, because when you are doing these trials, you are looking at the immunogenicity. So you want to give the vaccine to somebody and show that the person has been able to have the right immune response to be able to fight a disease if it should come up later. So whether there's been 200 cases there or 10 cases there, I don't think is a driving factor there. The driving force, in my opinion, is a site that will be able to do appropriate administration of the vaccine, the monitoring of the side effects, the surveillance that is required, and all the battery of biological investigations that have to take place. And I think that is what has driven the selection of South Africa.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Victor Bampo.
Thank you very much. My name is Victor Bampo. I was a Deputy Minister of Health, and I currently work at UNAIDS as the head of the global financing team there. First of all, I want to apologize because of bandwidth issues, I will not be able to, you will not be able to see me, otherwise I'll go off. But I wanted to make a few comments and bring in a bit of history, and I won't take too long because most of my questions have been answered. I was a bit disappointed because I saw that Martha Jansa-Lutrot had her hand up, and I thought she would have been able to provide some of the answers. And I also see that Mimi Darko is online, so perhaps she may want to do so as well. But thanks very much, Prof, for a very illuminating this presentation, and always good to see my mentor, Dr. Amofa, and my brother, Gilbert. One thing I would want to ask is if, for example, the slides could be shared after. I also wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate those at the helm of responding to COVID. I'm a board member of the Global Fund Board, and we were having a discussion. They are also one of the co-chairs of the ACTA, which is the COVID Tools Accelerator. And there was a discussion about the antigen test for COVID. And they were surprised to learn that Ghana is employing the antigen test already at the airport. So, you know, in many ways, Ghana is in the lead in some of these things. But I think Mercy has brought up some of the comments that I wanted to make. On the supply side, I think we have the mechanisms that have been put in place to address some of the things that Prof talked about the inequality in getting the vaccine. So there are two streams under the vaccines window for ACTA, which ensures that under that advanced market commitment, Ghana and other countries that are middle and low income can actually access these vaccines. And it's about how we take advantage of this quickly. And so I would have loved to hear what the government is actually doing, because we do have the mechanisms, as I just explained. We have the people like Mercy and others who know what is going on, can help us to get there. So it's something that we must look at. On the demand side, bringing also the history from the Ebola vaccine trials and the problems we had in 2015, I think it's imperative that we have some kind of, I don't know whether it's community entry, but it should go hand in hand with the science. And it's very important that we, especially now that this is also, you know, has all this propaganda around the 5G and so on. So it's just my plea to use history and also the people that know about these things, combined with those in country, to make sure that when the vaccine is ready, we can use it almost immediately. Thank you. Over.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks. I think you raised very important issues. The Ebola vaccine trial that was scuttled was a very interesting and probably unfortunate experience. But again, that is where community, politicians, and science did not see eye to eye. And that is where the politics, I mean, can you imagine, you recall all the discussions that took place in Parliament. The Technical Advisory Committee of FDA had to go and meet members of parliament to discuss this issue in detail. But at the end of the day, I mean, political power thought it was too dangerous and was not a popular thing to go with at that time. And that even though the science may look good, what if something happens? Then we'll be in trouble. So hands off. So I don't know. That was in 2015. That was not an election year, but this is an election year. I'm not sure whether anybody will touch Ebola vaccine or a COVID vaccine at this time of the year. But it is reality. Politics does affect our science.
Yeah, thank you again. Again, Victor, thank you very much, and Professor Gyapong, again, thank you very much. There are a number of issues that have come up in the chat box. Most of them are looking at, so what next? What next? How do we move into the research space? How do we do the investments? How do we come together to do something? I mean, Africa, fine. We're probably not on the radar as much as we would want to be. Can Ghana go it alone? Do we need a number of countries? How do we initiate that dialogue if Ghana is going to take the lead in that space? Or is it Ghana is going to get its research act together? Are we going to work with Nigeria? What would be an effective way moving forward for the continent? If Ghana as a country on its own, we are not going to reinvent the wheel, but what's the best way to join forces in a way, in manner that seeks our interests and addresses our concerns? I don't know whether Prof. Gyapong, you can speak to that, and if there are others who can also add to that discussion, that would be great. Thank you. Over.
I see many people who can speak to this issue online. So maybe they should have a bite first. And then I can share my thoughts.
Yeah, so,
Monsieur Hun, I'm wondering the role of GPHA in advising government on public health issues. I think COVID-19 has been positive in the sense that it has woken government up to the fact that health is a priority. I was in Ghana last year and it was like, I had education from parliamentarians, but everybody is now conscious that health is top priority. So how does the GPHA place itself in such a position that it can advise Ghana a long-term rather than knee-jerk reactions? We should not wait for a COVID vaccine to appear before we start scuttling around on what to do. I was surprised to hear that the EPA manager is saying that when it comes to the COVAX ANC, discussions has been held, but he is not aware of it. How can we support the EPA manager so that the science aspect goes into the political? And I'm talking to my boss, Dr. Abofa, who is the chair of this group, because we have to be relevant to government. Otherwise, we come and meet in small places like this and we go our various ways.
Yeah. So please, like we said, there are 90 of us here with a variety of experience. Please add your question, add your comments, share your ideas and thoughts of how do we move ahead. We don't want to be reactive to comments, but what new thoughts could we put together? We are not documenting and recording this, so don't worry about that. Over.
Well, can I just respond to my sister who wants to put me on the spot? Remember that I'm on retirement. We have done our part and we are still doing our part. In fact, it's one of the reasons why there is a Ghana Public Health Association. And it's very interesting that people still think that it's only a small group of people who are doing that. But I can tell you that the type of communiques we have been issuing out, in fact, the recent one on what is that on COVID in terms of opening of the borders and the schools and other things. Almost 95% plus of everything we said was actually taken by government. I mean, including the very details of that. And so normally we are there from time to time. We give support. We need a collective effort from all sides, from the academia, from the public health people, from clinicians, laboratory people, and civil society. Instead of them fighting about politics and other things, we want them to also be part of this. I mean, they just to support the effort of enhancing public health in Ghana. We would definitely issue a communique of some sort about positioning ourselves for the COVID vaccine. In fact, that is actually why we organized this one first. I mean, just to let people know that we are not talking about art. I mean, it's something that the World Federation of Public Health Association is actually pursuing with Gavi, with almost quite a number of other international bodies. But Ghana, we have to also position ourselves one way or the other. And I agree almost 100% with everything Prof has just said. I mean, that there's no way we can sit aloof and wait for other people to cook and then we come in to eat. I mean, it's not fair to anybody. What are the political parties' strategic plans for R&D in terms of epidemics, pandemics? Whether we like it or not, we will be getting plenty of those type of pandemics and epidemics all over. And so yes, we will definitely, two things, welcome people to be part of this advocacy thing. We are not a trade union to be fighting for pay increases and other things, but we will definitely fight for the good of humanity. And so that's what I'll say for now. We will definitely come out with a short communique teasing out some key essential points for the government to position itself, I mean, to benefit maximally, I mean, from any COVID vaccine that comes out.
Can we take KO and J since his hand has been up for a long time?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think if I should continue from where Mercy left it, yeah, supporting the EPI manager. I think the institutions we have set up in the country must be made functional. We have a national immunization technical advisory group, and I think issues of this sort should be more or less handled by them, and they should be well resourced so that research and other things can come out, and they are fed with the necessary information to offer advice to the government. But it looks like the government which set it up itself, I don't know whether they've forgotten that they have set up that group, because decisions are made even without the NITAC. So the institution should be made to function. And I think also that, I don't know how, but the trust in our scientists. I think we have world-class scientists. But anytime we are making a decision, the first, has it been used in developed countries? It's as if the white man is wiser than us, and if he hasn't used it, there's no way Ghana should use it. And the white man's problems may be different from ours. So when we are doing things which will address our own problems, and we always want the white man to use it first, we will be lacking in several things. So trust in our scientists who go and do big things outside.
Yeah, and I think the last experience we had, the pandemic level has an effect on uptake. When we had the H1N1 outbreak in 2009 or 10, and the initial pandemic level was high, people were chasing us for vaccines. But once the pandemic level got lowered, a lot of the vaccines remained and had to expire and be. So at this stage, I think this is the stage where we need the vaccines. And the earlier we move, the better. But when the pandemic level, the disease, fear of the disease is lower than fear of the vaccine, who will take a vaccine? So those are the things I want to raise. But Prof, thanks for a very good lecture. It's very educative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll call Martha Ganza to also speak.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I want to add my voice to that of the others to congratulate Professor Gyapong for a very well-researched presentation. I think that when the South Africa vaccine trial was about to begin, I started asking, how can Ghana benefit? How could we be part of it? And obviously, I think our image had been dented with the Ebola vaccine trial. And so, although we have a lot of infrastructure that can accommodate the any trial in Ghana, we have a regulatory authority that has a regulatory maturity at level 3. And so we have all it takes for us to be considered as a country to be part of that trial. And so I think that those things we have to make efforts as a country to see how we can come to terms with the fact that we lost it in 2015, and how can we redeem our image. Of course, the malaria vaccine seemed to be doing that, but the initial reactions had not been also very good. So having said that, I think there were two questions that Dr. Ehun asked. What are the efforts that we are making to look at the community issues regarding vaccines? And I think the social science bit has to be rethink or re-look at to ensure that we have understanding of what our people want. Like somebody said, Prof himself said, the science must lead us, and our government has always reiterated the fact that the response to COVID-19 is led by science. And so I think it is a good time for us to see how we can put a paper together in terms of what we want out of what is happening globally in terms of vaccine as part of the response to the COVID, and also begin to see whether we want to commission UHAS to do this type of social science research into some of the things that we are seeing regarding the community issues on vaccine. So these are the 2 points I want to put before us as the Public Health Association, to see what two things we could do. One is the social science bit. The other is the resource indeed for funding. Earlier on, I raised the issue about how the region is taking advantage of maybe pool procurement. Suffice to say that there is a harmonization program going on, and that began about some 2 years earlier. And our FDA has actually been selected as one of the lead regulatory agency to lead the ECOWAS in that the fight. And so with the current issue about the vaccine, The region is thinking about how can we take, we use economies of scale to be able to procure the vaccine for the region in such a manner that we have value for money. And so these discussions are still going on. And I believe that as the days go by, we should be able to take some concrete steps. I have severally sent a text to Auntie Mercy to find out what we could do or how could Ghana take advantage of it. But the way things are looking is looking like we may have to take the regional approach to deal with the COVID-19 issue. Thank you very much. Over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Victor Bampo, your hand is up again.
Thank you. I think Martha has dealt with the key question that I had, but for me, it was about how I was a bit worried when I heard that there were discussions with Gavi that involved the minister, and the technical people, at least on this call, could not tell us what where we stand. And I think when Prof gave his presentation, he talked about letting science lead politics. And so just to make sure that, number one, we take advantage of people like Mercy. And I'm happy that Martha is saying that they've reached out to Mercy and so on, but to take advantage of the vast network of people out there who actually work with this on a day-to-day basis, who can support the country. And secondly, to make sure that the right decisions are made, both externally and internally, based on the information that is available. And I'm sorry to say this, but I think that out there, the clock is ticking. People are taking advantage of it. I was just reviewing the numbers, and it happened also when it came to the Global Fund and doing reprogramming for COVID, and also using the new Global Fund COVID-19 response mechanism. It seems like sometimes we're a bit slow off the block. So my appeal is that whatever the Ghana Public Health Association does, we should remember that there are people who work with these tools every day and can accelerate Ghana's position in that queue. Thank you. Over.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Victor. I think you raised an important issue, if I may, which, yes, we may write a good communique and issue a communique after this meeting and all that. But I mean, you all know that making phone calls and talking to people who matter usually yield more results than all these communiques. I mean, we know that Dr. Anefia Samaba has been appointed a special advisor to the president on COVID. So why won't Dr. Mufa, after this, or maybe tomorrow thereabout, put some thoughts together and talk to AB to try and begin to influence the process? I think those kind of things would go much further than the communique. Of course, the communique can come later on, but I think making such an initiative would yield a lot more.
Probably be assured that some of us are deeply involved in the COVID issues and other things, and we are almost on a daily touch with those who matter, and so those things actually happen. But,
again, that thing come again.
Okay. Good.
Can't I see myself? Hello?
FZG, your hand is up.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Have the final comments.
Yes. No, one last question. I know when this COVID started, Ghana was participating in the WHO solidarity treatment trials. In the WHO website, they've also come up with the vaccine trials. Is it possible that Ghana could use that approach that they took to get onto the treatment trials to see if we could also participate when the vaccines are also made available for countries too. That's my question. Thank you.
I think Martha should answer this question.
Oh, Prof, you are putting me on the spot.
Because I know you have the answer.
I think that yes, Ghana has applied to be part of the solidarity trial, and obviously we put our teams together, put our proposals together, and you know that in country we have repurposed hydroxychloroquine and the others to manage COVID. Unfortunately, WHO has written to us that we have to hold on to the protocol we have because they have suspended hydroxychloroquine. And so that is where we are. Yes, they are aware that Ghana has registered for it, but that's what I can say now for now, please. Thank you very much, Prof.
Well, okay.
Thank you very much. If there's no other question, then Prof can give us his closing comment before Dr. Bato, who is our chairperson, speaks.
Right, okay. Thank you again for this opportunity. And I profusely apologize for thinking that GPHA was the Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority. I think that we need to look at our strengths when it comes to the whole chain of vaccine development. Yes, it would be good to invest in R&D to ensure that we produce our own vaccines and develop our own vaccines and produce them here in Ghana or in the sub-Saharan African region and all that. But we have a long way to go on that. So as someone would say, let's pick the low-hanging fruits. We have the capacity to do good vaccine trials, particularly phase 2, phase 3 trials in this country. And therefore, if there are good candidate vaccines, we need to engage the right group of people and ensure that the science leads us in this process so that we can be at the table when the decisions are made. I think that, well, Martha suggested that probably we will not be called upon because of the Ebola trial saga, but I think we can redeem ourselves. We can redeem ourselves from this whole issue and be counted in this process. Because as I indicated, the work that is being done by AVAREF has been facilitated mainly by the Ghana FDA. So we have the capacity, and therefore we should take advantage of it and let the science lead the process so that we can contribute and make Ghana a better place as far as this COVID is concerned. The unfortunate thing is that we do not know what the next couple of months would be like, as I indicated. From the graphs that I received from the Ghana Health Service, the numbers are going down. And clearly that is good news. But is it going to go down and down and down and extinguish? Nobody can tell. And if there should be a spike, how is it going to be like? Nobody knows. This is unknown territory that we are charting. So let's all put our hands on deck and make sure that the Public Health Association is able to make its contribution to make Ghana a better place through a good vaccine development program. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Prof. Gyapong, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I came into this evening's seminar asking myself, so if they bring vaccine, will I take some? I mean, after, at the end of the day, I'm asking, so, okay, let's all do this nice discussion. If tomorrow they say everybody should take the vaccine, will I line my wife, children, everybody and going to? I have left this, I'm leaving this seminar much lighter, clarity in the considerations objectively that one would have to look at. I am leaving this seminar appreciative of the fact that whatever mistrust we have is legitimate and it's not just about me or you, but it's something that is pervasive within the COVID space. I'm also comfortable that, yes, there has been a lot of politicization and one should not be deterred by that. But I think Professor Gyapong has clearly given us the points for discussion, the points for decision making, clearly. I think Professor Gyapong has given us an objective basis upon which we can advise and make suggestions into the way forward for vaccines. And I think that is really the most important thing for me as we leave. Having said that, Mercy asked what next, and others have put on the chat what next. Our president has indicated some documentation, some write-up. I think we're in a good space now to start projecting the future and putting objective suggestions out there for the future of how we go ahead, not just with COVID, but the whole vaccine scenario in general. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of people available who can support. And we know the people who are sitting, making those decisions and advising the government, and the Public Health Association should be one of those people or institutions, as it were. There's no way I can summarize all that Professor Gyapong said, only that at least I leave much calmer, much more rational about what will inform a personal decision to take a vaccine or not take a vaccine, much more rational about the kind of information we need to put out there to support both arguments around Ghana's capacity and whether we should participate or otherwise. But it is clear in my mind that we cannot sit on the fence. We have to take a decision to participate. We need to put our best foot forward. We need to know what we are not good at and get the information we need to comfort ourselves that we're not leading our people in ways and manners that is not in their general public health and safety. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your time. It's been a phenomenal discussion. We will definitely take it up from here. Mr. President, George, we will continue the discussion as we do most after these processes. And should we put it out there, we shall inform members where this information is. As we are moving, please, those of you who we know are also adequately networked, please make yourself available. We will call on you in the process. If you look in the chat box, we have put out a link for those of you who've not formally identified yourselves with the Ghana Public Health Association. So there's a link there. Please go inside the link, register, put your name up. We will engage and then expand our formal networks and our formal membership. For the other members on the group and everybody as well, we have finished our election for our Vice President. Dr. Erasmus Agongo has been elected as the Vice President of the Public Health Association, and we congratulate him. We will also continue, and that is the plan, to have these monthly seminars, whether on COVID or any other issue of public health concern, and we'll appreciate your participation as you have done so nicely this evening. So again, thank you all very much. Dr. Mufa, if there's anything you'd want to put out, we would appreciate your
no, just to thank you. In fact, we were over 100 people. People were struggling to enter, and they couldn't even get space, which shows the interest. Johnny's name alone attracts more than half. And so the next time we'll be calling on Evelyn Lanza, and so she should be getting ready for another batch from all you people, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Good.
Is that another way of saying that I should send you a bill?
No problem.
You should register, not Port and Harbor.
Yes, send it to Port and Harbor.
Good.
I just want to find out if we will get the presentations. The presentations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to share the slides. That's no problem.
Yeah. Hello.
I can email it to Dr. Mufa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Who's speaking, please?
Yeah, we just want to find out. There is Dr. Nyavi. We just want to find out if we'll be getting the participation certificate also.
Unfortunately, for now, no. But that will be another issue we will discuss. Later. So sorry for now.
We'll add value. We'll add additional value to these and work out CMEs and others over time.
Yes. In other words, we were going to do all these things with cars and other things, but we've come out with a strategic plan, 5-year strategic plan, and all those things. Then for COVID came in and basically spoiled all the agenda. Now we are reactivating everything, and we want more and more of the energetic people to take over, so that we are able to move forward.
Good. Okay. So we started with the word of prayer. We just want to thank the good Lord for his presence in our midst. We want to thank him for the gift of Professor Gyapong and the wisdom and insights he has shared, and the contributions of all of us on the platform. We pray that our collective energy, networks, and knowledge shall stand to benefit our people. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Mercy.
Amen.
Really good to see you.
Mercy, come home, man. You stayed outside for too long.
I enjoy Ghana so much. Where country do you go to? Doctors are meeting and then they say, let's pray. Public Health Association, they say, let's pray. Usually,
Yes. Yeah, we will continue praying. We are in Ghana.
Amen.
Yes, the spiritual aspect is part of public health. We don't deny it.
Does this happen every month?
We've had it consecutively for 2 months.
And now, in fact, formerly it was 3 months, but now it is going to be, we will strategize in such a way that within the month, there will be 2. But it will be because we pay for 1 month and it can take about 2 at the end. You see, at the experiment, 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end. But it will also be 1 month interval.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great to see all of you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no, we are being efficient. Efficient use of resources and time.
Yes. Okay, so good night, everybody. Sleep well.
Okay.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Dr. Bako. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Prof, thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Johnny, thanks a lot.
You hear from us.
Okay. So the check.